product ownership a shared sport? Rasmus and Mirza. Our sponsors?
All right, let's get started. We are already behind schedule. Technical issues as always. So first of all, who here is a product owner? Who would define him or herself as a product owner? Oh, good, we have a few. We have a few.
Okay.
All right, cool. Mirza and I are both defining ourselves as product owners. We've been working with this for a long time, and this is why we're now doing this speak about product ownership. But the truth about Mirza and I is that even though we've been working with the same title, we are very different.
We are very, very different. And that's what we are going to see in the session. And that actually touches the base of the Agile mindset. Like during the talk, we're going to see the factors like how the organization, how the product, how the maturity of the organization, how the maturity of your agility, I mean, it affects the different roles when you are implementing Scrum.
But first of all, now we talk about a product owner. Does anyone here dare to come with his view on what is a product owner?
What do you think?
Yeah.
He's the one with the most prioritize.
Yes?
Okay, yeah, good. Anything else?
Accountable person.
Come again, please.
Single accountable person for the product.
You mean single ringable neck? Okay.
Who can say no?
A person who can say no?
Yes.
Yeah?
As well as yes.
Huh?
As well as yes.
A person having a vision,
Yes?
Yeah.
a person who has the capability to refine whatever is needed for a product to go make it as a success, ideally.
Very good. Very good. I think every single thing you have mentioned here is something we're going to touch in on. Yeah?
One who is responsible for the success or failure of any project.
That's what the book says.
Yes?
That's what the book says. And it's a very important point that we're going to explore. What the book says and what the reality is. By the way, delving into much of the content, I want to set the expectations here. Like I have said before, and we need to keep in mind that there is no single standard version of any role because it's evolving. And Agile gives you this freedom to let the role evolve. And we need to understand that product owner is a role, product ownership is a function. And we'll see how different elements actually shape the product owner, the way he is for the product within the organization.
Yes. But what the book says is actually what we're going to start with. So we have our product owner. Our product owner is usually handling, prioritizing the backlog, what is important, everything. And he will convey that to our development team, our Scrum team. The Scrum team will then deliver something, together with the PO of course, to the client. And the client will return feedback and we have our entire loop. And then we're just going to iterate on that continuously until we, perhaps at some point, are done. So this is like the textbook example of the product owner, yeah? But what really happens when reality strikes is that it might not be that simple. We scale, we suddenly have success with our product, so suddenly we will have multiple development teams. So now it's not just one team that you need to interact with, you will have several teams, right? Okay, so what then happens? We also have several clients. So now it's just not one client come in with his expectations to the product. Now you have several expectations and they might not be the same because different clients have different needs. Okay, more stuff to deal with for our product owner right here, right? Their management, they also might have some strategic input to your product. They might set some directions. We all know that in management, they want to interfere. They want to have a saying. That's why they're there, right? Okay, new technology, new trends. You need to have an understanding of what's going on in the market. What's the new black, right? So you also need to be aware of that as your product owner. Market expectations. You have a sales department. They also look into the future. They look at the big glass ball and say, this is what's going to sell in 2 years from now. So now we got to get started on it, right?
And I think we can make the connection. Like when we ask you, what do you think of the product owner? Whatever you said, that can be combined or summarized in the slides. Like the smaller portion was described actually in the book, but actually what happens, and you had that understanding, like there's diverse stakeholders within and outside the organization.
So all of these, as a product owner in the middle, all around him, you have all his stakeholders. And I'm sure if you think about your organization or your teams, you might even have other stakeholders, more stakeholders. And all of this just adds to the complexity. So when we again, oh yeah, I forgot the team. They're also a major stakeholder into what's going to happen with the product. So in this middle circle, what we have there is that's the textbook example of a Scrum owner, a product owner, sorry. But when we look at the whole picture, we'll see that the world around him is much, much more complex. And that's what we're going to deal with in reality. So this is the gap. This is what we're going to talk a lot more about.
And also this explains that this session is not just, pretty much enough to scratch the surface even. So what we are doing to set your expectation, this is just to give you a holistic view. The product ownership function is far, far more than that. So, but this is a good start to have you look the immensity of the role that product owner has to play within the organization, within the product life cycle, and especially when your organization is getting mature in agility.
All right. And then we're just going to add to that as well, because sometimes as a product owner, you can be lucky that you have your development teams and your users, the clients, in-house. That's a classic scenario. But we also know that in reality, sometimes you have external development teams you might have, and your client might also be external, and that's just adds and adds and adds to the complexity of the product owner's world.
And if we ask a question, audience, just a quick question, just to have that understanding, what do you think the biggest challenge in this scenario could be?
Communication?
Perfect. Communication, you can see from this, like we showed you first, if you have the internal stakeholders, the communication is very flexible. You understand the culture, you understand the language, everybody talks the same language. But in this scenario, just to understand what the customer needs and to be in the middle, and if you have to outsource some parts of the project, you can imagine the complexity of communication that is involved with the product ownership function.
And therefore understanding both sides of the shared context.
Absolutely, yes.
All right. So just to mention a few of the expectations you might have to your product owner, right? You already said a lot of it, actually. That's the vision, right? As a product owner, you're supposed to share and create the vision, set the direction, and share it with all your stakeholders. You also mentioned that he's the one with the ultimate responsibility in the end, right? Return of investment. Product owner needs to understand the business, understand the domain that he's working within, because how else can he set the direction for your product? He needs to be able to prioritize the work based on business value. That's what you do as a product owner. And finally, he has to be able to make sure that everybody comes together. All your stakeholders, from developers to clients, and everything that comes in between. All the stakeholders. So communication is definitely a key here. So just a list of the most important expectations.
What do you think? Can you think of a product owner? What do you think? Just keep within your head. Like just think of a product owner like you idealize someone as a true product owner. Just have that personality in mind and try to map these features. Like what do you think? How these features map onto that personality? Because creating a shared vision and building a consensus and driving your whole team towards that shared vision, it's a full-fledged leadership role.
So those were the expectations, but then there's also a lot of skills. In order to convey and handle all these expectations, the skill sets, the list of skill sets are quite long. And again, we mentioned a few here. Value thinking, analytic skills, trust building, facilitation, decision making, leadership and alignment, communication at all levels. And there are more. Trust me, there's a lot more. So how do you handle this? How do you as a product owner handle all of these expectations and handling the fact that in order to meet those expectations, you need to have all these skills?
What do you think? A single ringable neck is what do you think? It's a good scenario to put a product owner responsible for each and everything, for the success of each and every factor? What do you think?
If you are to be able to prioritize and make the decision, take the blame, and protect the rest of the people, it must be you. But to be able to do that, you need authority and time.
And
Time to react, reflect, and do the work. If you don't have the time to do it, then you cannot be that unicorn.
I think, like the connection if we see between the expectations and skills, this is something he needs to be a kind of a Superman, but he's not a Superman.
They do exist though.
Exactly. So we need, that's why we define that product owner is a role and product ownership is a function. So we need to understand the dynamics between these two things. Okay?
But this is a task you'd like to have?
As a product owner,
I see some people shake their heads. I understand why. All right. So this is the scenario. This is the world we live in. This is the world Mirza lives in, I live in. A couple of you I also do. So how do we manage it? The PO is never alone. And that's what you need to take with you. So because trying to manage all of these things all by yourself, that's not going to work.
impossible. Hasta la vista. It's just like goodbye, we're again. So that's why he has a team. And let me read it to you what actually PO is doing here. PO is linked with the market trends. PO is linked with the customers. PO is linked with the partners. PO is linked with the development team. PO is linked with other POs. POs is linked with the organization. And PO is linked with the Scrum Master. So as we said, when you are going to perform a product ownership function, the PO is actually the leader who gets the input from the experts and he drives them towards the shared vision. I would quote Steve Jobs, and actually his one statement summarizes the product ownership role. He said, "It is stupid to hire smart people and tell them what to do." So if we map this statement into this, so we can see a very clear connection, like all of these guys around the PO are the experts. What PO is doing here actually? What PO is doing here? He has the vision, like the lady said. He has the vision, he's driving the vision. So what do you think, what's going on between these stakeholders and the PO? What PO is actually doing here? Collaborating, yes?
Everybody aligned on a common goal or a vision, I think that this is what needs to
Okay, so what could be the kind of communication PO would have with the customer? Let's drill it down a bit.
around value.
Around understanding the needs of the customer, okay? He would be the voice of the customer, okay? So what could be the communication between the PO and the partners? Aligning the vision, building consensus, building trust, facilitation, having them all on board and drive them towards the shared vision. What about the relationship of PO and the dev team? I think within this region, my experience says, especially when you're transitioning to Scrum and when you have, you're moving towards Scrum, the basic challenge for the PO is to be available for the team all the time, or when the team needs him. At first, when we start, from my personal experience, when we start implementing Scrum, the PO takes on 2 teams or 3 teams. He is not available for each and every team, for each and every query of the dev team. Plus, if PO doesn't understand the Scrum framework, how is he going to support the dev team? So I have seen myself, I have coached POs to be available for the dev team, to give them respect, to their opinions, because it's very difficult when you're transitioning to actually give developers their due respect that Scrum gives them. What do you think? The relationship of PO and the organization. And that's a big question. And I need to hear some of the cultural answers that we can relate to, we all can relate to.
So
The organizations needs to empower POs.
You said it. Anything else?
The product owner needs to come from departments outside IT, obviously, close to the top management, like marketing or finance, because you need the authority, the respect.
You conveyed your point. You conveyed your point. Can somebody define the common denominator between these 2 points?
Just to add on to the
Okay.
organizational point, I think the PO really needs to translate on your organizational level what the team is doing, how does that translate and match with the organizational vision. That's
Okay.
a great way to-
Can anybody summarize the common denominator between these 3
Return on
points?
investment, maybe?
That is one, but trust is the major thing. Like PO should trust the dev team should trust the PO, and the organization should put the trust in the PO. When he said empowered, you said empowered, what does it actually mean? The organization trusts you, organization trusts your decisions, organization trusts your vision, organization trusts all your skills, and they give you the authority, and they empower you. We shouldn't use the word authority, they empower you. Okay? So I think, and what, again, a cultural answer I would like to hear, what could be the relationship between the PO and the Scrum Master? Cultural answer.
Pure transparency.
Yes, this is one. Second.
Alignment of vision. Alignment of vision.
Okay. Rasmus, would you like to add something?
It's the same as the rest of the team, they have to respect each other. That's it, really.
They're pure, sometimes as counterparts to each other. Like if you talk about their relationship with the development team, Scrum Master, a product owner needs to realize that Scrum Master is more like a coach.
Okay.
So there should be a level of respect and mutual understanding between them.
Actually, the coaching part is with the Scrum Master. But from my personal experience, the major part that actually, the major communication that happens between the PO and the Scrum Master, because the Scrum Master actually removes the impediments. So he needs the product owner's support to protect the team and to have the buy-in from the higher management. Like suppose, if the team is working on something, you don't change the dynamics of the team. You don't put in or put out the developer or the dev team. So PO plays a very huge role when you are transitioning to Scrum, when you are maturing in agility and all that stuff. So there's a very close collaboration and transparency and trust between the Scrum Master and PO that's going on in between.
So if we take a step back again and look at all the skills that the Scrum Master is supposed to have, it actually doesn't necessarily means that he has to be an expert on every single one of them, because all around him he have a whole team of experts that can facilitate, that can help him, that can take market analysis and basically help the PO. Right? So if anything that you need to take with you today, that is the most important part, this is the slide. Remember that even though that it looks like you are the single person in charge of the product, anyhow, you have a whole team that are there to help you. All right? Okay, so bear that in mind. There are more factors as a product owner that you need to be aware of, because things change. Organization changes, the culture in the organization changes, the size of it. We all know when we scale up, things change. We also know that the product might change. We'll come more into that. And the states of the product, the life cycle of the product also change. And with these changes, you as a product owner also need to change.
And again, these are not limiting factors. I mean, there could be so many things, but this is just to give you a glimpse of how deep and complex that role is. So what do you think? Like, this is the product life cycle. And within this phase, when your product is actually, when you're in idea validation phase, the product owner needs to be very much empowered. And if you look at the real life example, within this stage, more of the product ownership functions are actually accumulated in the role. Why? Because he has to make tough decisions. He has sometimes to pivot. He sometimes needs to make a decision that doesn't resonate well. Okay, so this is the part where your product is maturing, and your product owner has most of the product ownership functions because your organization is small, your team is small, you're having your idea validated. Okay, so you can say this is a startup, and product owner is actually having his idea validated. Once your idea is validated, let's take an example of Kareem just for to understand it better. When Kareem started, they have a very small team, one product owner. So they drove Kareem from one place to here, and after this point, they started scaling. So what they're doing now, they have got 350 million funding to scale, and now they are on this path. So you can see when your product actually, on which stage your product is, that hugely affects the responsibilities of the product owner.
But this also means that if you bear this in mind, I would argue that you can have, if you take the product through it all of the life cycle, do you need the same man to be in charge of the product in the beginning as you need in the end? Some product owners, they can evolve through the product, but there might also be some product owners that are better in the beginning and others that are better in the end. And that's absolutely fair. We're all different. So that could be something to bear in mind as well. You mentioned the example with Kareem. A very classic example, real life example is the iPod. I think we all know that.
We can now relate to that.
Yeah. And since we're short of time, let's just move forward. So, some of the product owner functions. This is basically to just recap a lot of the things that have already been said. So, ownership, yes, prioritization, value delivery. These are some of the functions that the product owner need. Yeah. Then there are the behavioral functions.
Enactment of Agile framework. This is the close collaboration between the product owner, Scrum Master, organization, and dev team. Only then you can enact the Agile framework. Enactment of Agile values, trust, commitment, focus, respect, and courage. These are the 5 Scrum values. And if product owner is not present, if product owner is not available, if product owner is not willing, if product owner, I have seen the product owners who was the product manager before, he was not willing to take the product ownership role. So if he's not willing and is not available, he's not collaborative and he's not communicative. So you cannot enact the Agile values or the Agile frameworks. Team empowerment. Like, if product owner has prioritized something if product owner has prioritized something and team has chosen out of the backlog, okay? So now product owners should support their team like we trust this team and what they have chosen out of this prioritized backlog, I'm going to support them. Without his team, without his support for the team, the values and framework is not going to work.
So anyone here been classic project managers? I have. And how many of you dare to admit you've done the cover your ass game?
All of us.
Exactly. All of us, whether we're going to admit it or not. And that game has to stop, right? Because now you have empowered your team. You've got to be the one in the middle. You've got to collaborate. You've got to communicate. You've got to be transparent of what you're going to do. Right?
That was the alarm that we have 5 minutes left.
We're moving forward. So, the mindset of a successful product owner. Collaboration. I think we said it lots of times already, but that is a key to succeeding as a product owner. So standing together, utilizing skills from the development teams, the organizations, the client, you will stand a chance. If you think you can be the single man on top of the mountain, most likely you're gonna fail. So see yourself more as a facilitator that will ensure things get done, ensure people are communicating, people are on the right path, rather than, single point of failure.
And he's more of a leader than the manager because he actually inspires the team to bring on their best. He's inspiring the whole organization, your dev team, your Scrum Master, he's empowering them, he's bringing in the transparency, he's giving them confidence, he's giving them trust so that everybody feels safe and everybody comes up with their best input and with their best throughput.
He should be value driven. Focus on value. Only by that you can succeed. So that means by asking why. When the client comes to you, someone said that he's the one who has to be able to say no.
Yeah, that's very important.
But an even better question is why. An even better answer, sorry, is why. Keep asking, why do you want that? Because only by asking the why and keep asking why, you will come into the core essence of what it is that you want to achieve, what is the value. But more important maybe is don't tell how. We talked about the empowering of the teams. Let them know they are the expert. You're not necessarily the expert as a product owner.
And you have to trust the team that they are experts. And you have to trust their judgments. You have to trust their decisions.
Delivery driven?
Delivery driven. What actually important, this is something that relates to the business part. Like the product owner knows what's going on in the market. Product owner knows what actually the customer needs. He's the voice of the customer. He knows what is the best time to launch something or not. So he's not only driving the value, he's also driving the time when he's going to put it into the market or when he's going to put it into the hands of the customer. So he is market expert, or he uses, I said it wrong. You should keep in mind, I said it wrong. He uses the input coming from the experts, the guys who are working on the marketing and sales. He should use this, those data information and put it and decide when should be the best time to put something into the market or into the hands of the customer. Collaboration, value driven, and delivery driven.
And actually the delivery driven part is quite funny with, because both Mirza and I was very happy with the statement yesterday when we talked about it, but then we started talking about it and then we realized that we came from two different worlds, which is perfect. I absolutely agree with what Mirza just said, but there's also the other angle to being delivery driven. Because if you go back to the Agile manifesto, so we want to do running software, we want to deliver software, we want to do that more than we want to do documentation. And that's why I really like this statement as well, because it helps you get rid of the cover your ass approach. Because when you deliver software, when you deliver something that the users can utilize, then you actually avoid that whole game because everybody see what you get. So there's nothing is hidden. Everything is clear to you.
In order to summarize what I stated that product owner knows the right time to launch in the market. Rasmus' point is that you should deliver frequently so that you can have a frequent feedback. And that's why you can see even we both have different perspectives. We are coming from different backgrounds. It's okay to have these perspectives, and we should respect each of the perspectives because we are working in different contexts. And whatever his approach, it worked in that context, and whatever my approach, that worked in my context. But we are open to listen to different opinions and to understand the context where those opinions works.
All right. So, final two questions, and I know time is up, so we're going to do this very, very fast. So, question number one. So, can you truly be a product owner if you're not empowered? We call it like being the product CEO. We talked about it just before. So yeah, you need to make sure that you are empowered as a product owner, that you have this full support, not only from the management, but also from your team. Make sure, and the client obviously, but make sure that you have the power, right? And are you as a PO ready to be the fire of your product? So what we mean about this is that it is important that you will be ready to give blood, sweat, and tears for your product. If you really are gonna succeed with your product, you gotta be the leader. You gotta be the one standing in direction and throw yourself into the flames and just burn through. So everybody will be engaged, everybody will buy in on what it is that are your vision. Because if everybody has buy-in, you will have a much, much better chance of succeeding.
So that was the way how a product owner actually transferred his or her fire into the team. And that's why they work together for a shared vision, and that's when disruptions happen. Thank you very much. We are open for the questions.
Yeah, I think time is up.
Time is up. We can have one-to-one questions as well.
Only one question. The thing is that the development team is not directly reporting to the between the product owner and development team. And in the end of the year, who is doing my PCM is not done by the PO, it's done by some other manager. So do you think that the trust level or collaboration level will be disturbed or will be
That's
removed?
organizational impediment. That's organizational impediment. Because you're talking about implementing Agile in a traditional environment. Like you're talking about, as per I understood your question, you have implemented agility just on the team level or within the dev. But your product owner is not that much empowered because he should be answerable for the result of the product. But I think your point is performance or something?
Yes, yes, because the better collaboration and trust me. I had shown with my product owner for the whole year.
Okay.
But after a year, I have seen that my product.
Okay, I think again you're going back to the same. Like, Rasmus, would you like to highlight?
Yeah,
the
just
point?
because you used the phrase how the team report
Exactly.
the progress, and that doesn't sound well to me. Because how do the team report?
Plus,
The-
he said year because in Scrum we have your feedback cycle every day, daily Scrum, and every 2 weeks. When the Scrum ends, you see the probably shippable product.
The biggest factor of trust, we can say the award which we have achieved.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. Okay. I am reporting the whole year to the person, and the person who is doing my PCM, who is unknown for me for whole year.
But I would reverse it a little bit. So let's say the team, when they report, they do that by reviews, right? So every review, after every sprint, you will show what you have delivered, correct? Every stakeholder should be part of that meeting. So nothing will come as a surprise after 1 year because they should be present.
In Agile mindset, your question would change.
Part of the stakeholders.
Yeah. We can talk more
Exactly.
about it later. We will be available the whole day for
Just about
questions.
the appraisal which we are
Yeah.
talking about.
packages and everything.
Yes.
And that's why there's a movement that's called Agile HR.
It's an organization. You said it right.
I see one
Yes,
more
sir.
question.
Yes, sir.
Now we see a lot of expectation from the product owner, but he's need to be expected to do. What does the product owner expect from the rest of the team to support? You said that the product owner is not alone. What expectation the product owner needs from the rest of the organization?
I think we could have done an entire presentation on that question as well. But I think we actually have the empowerment up here. I think that's at least one thing. You should expect that everybody will support you. When it comes to development teams in general, I think you can easily set some expectations. I would just follow the Agile Manifesto, follow Scrum, saying, okay, some of the things that you should expect is delivery of running software.
I would take your question to a much deeper level, adding to what Rasmus said. Actually, when you talk about agility, when you're putting trust into the people, you invest in each and every person, be it the dev team, be it Scrum Master, or whoever involved within the team. Okay? So when you talk about the team and when you talk about the expectations, it's a journey. Like if I'm a developer, he's my product owner, and someone is Scrum Master, we all are in a journey to learn the new mindset, the new ways of thinking. So my expectations from you as a product owner and your expectations from me as a developer or Scrum Master, transparency, focus, commitment, respect, courage. Okay? So it takes time to understand and also to implement, and especially if you are doing it on a medium level or large scale.
The focus is on the product owner. And
That's what it seems. Whenever you discuss a role, it has a lot of responsibilities, and that's what we seem that like the whole focus is on dev, the whole focus is on Scrum Master, the whole focus is on product owner, because we said this is just, we have not even scratched the surface of the product ownership role. Okay.
All right.
Okay, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So